Did you know you can make any person feel completely mesmerized by your voice in less than 30 seconds? Today I'm going to reveal the most powerful secrets that Neil Strauss discovered about how to transform your voice into an irresistible magnet that attracts, seduces, and persuades without the other person realizing what's happening. Most people have no idea of the devastating power their voice holds. They speak without intention, without control, not knowing that every word they utter could be the difference between being ignored or being remembered forever. But people who master these secrets have something the rest can't explain. When they speak, everyone goes quiet. When they tell a story, no one can look away. When they express an opinion, it suddenly becomes the most important one in the room. Neil Strauss spent years studying the masters of seduction and discovered they all had one thing in common. They knew how to use their voice as a weapon of mass persuasion. It wasn't about having a perfect voice or being a singer. It was about understanding how the psychology behind sound works and how to manipulate people's emotions through specific vibrations. If you've ever wondered why some people can get whatever they want just by talking, while you have to beg for attention, the answer lies in what you're going to learn today. Because when you master these 5 secrets, your voice will become so magnetic that people won't be able to resist listening to you. The first secret Neil Strauss discovered is that the depth of your voice determines how seriously people take you. But here's the problem. Most people speak from their throat, creating a high-pitched, weak sound that transmits insecurity. The most powerful people have learned to speak from their chest, generating deep vibrations that automatically communicate authority and confidence. Strauss observed that the most successful seducers had something in common. They all spoke with what he called the voice of power. This voice doesn't originate in the throat, but is born from the diaphragm and resonates in the chest. When you speak this way, the low frequencies of your voice activate a primitive response in the brain of whoever is listening to you. It's the same frequency we associate with protection, strength, and leadership. Think about the people who have impressed you most when they speak. They all have that deep vocal quality that makes their words carry weight. It's not a coincidence. It's pure biology. Low frequencies activate the parasympathetic nervous system, creating a sense of calm and confidence in whoever is listening to you. That's why you automatically trust someone who speaks with a deep voice more than someone who speaks with a high-pitched voice. Here's an exercise that changed thousands of people's lives. Every morning, before speaking to anyone, put one hand on your chest and another on your stomach. Breathe deeply until you feel your stomach hand moving more than your chest hand. Now, from that position, pronounce the letter A for 10 seconds, feeling how it vibrates in your chest. Repeat this 5 times. This simple practice will train your voice to naturally come from the right place. Have you noticed how some people manage to make you listen even when they're speaking quietly? The secret lies in controlling rhythm and strategic pauses. But most people make the fatal mistake of speaking too fast out of nervousness, completely losing the hypnotic power of their communication, and that's what we'll talk about in the next point. Neil Strauss's second discovery was revolutionary. Speed kills seduction. People who speak fast communicate anxiety, insecurity, and desperation, but those who master the art of magnetic communication have learned that speaking slowly creates an irresistible hypnotic effect. Strauss discovered that great communicators weren't in a hurry to finish their sentences. They understood that every word had a purpose, and that the pauses between words were as important as the words themselves. When you speak slowly and deliberately, you force the other person to pay more attention, because subconsciously they feel that what you're going to say is important. Here's the science behind this. When someone speaks very fast, our brain goes into survival mode. We interpret speed as a signal of danger or nervousness, but when someone speaks slowly and deliberately, our brain interprets this as confidence and control. That's why the most charismatic leaders in the world speak with a rhythm that seems almost musical. Imagine your boss giving you an important order. If they do it by yelling and speaking fast, your first reaction is resistance. But if they come closer, lower their voice and speak slowly and clearly, you automatically pay more attention and take what they say seriously. That's the difference between communicating from desperation and communicating from power. The exercise that will transform your way of speaking is this. For a complete week, every time you're going to say something important, pause for 3 seconds before starting to speak. Then, pronounce each word as if it cost money. You'll see how people start listening to you differently. Your brain will get used to this new rhythm, and eventually it will become natural. But there's something even more powerful than rhythm: the ability to create emotional tension through your tone of voice. Most people speak with a monotonous tone that puts whoever is listening to them to sleep, not knowing they could be creating an emotional roller coaster that keeps everyone completely captivated, and that's exactly what we'll explore next. If you want this video to change your life, hit the like button right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the secrets that are coming. Your future self will thank you. Neil Strauss discovered that tonal variation is the secret ingredient that separates average communicators from true masters of persuasion. Magnetic people don't speak with just one tone. They create an emotional landscape through their voice that keeps the audience completely hooked. The third secret is understanding that your voice should be like a song. The great seducers that Strauss studied knew when to raise their tone to generate emotion, when to lower it to create intimacy, and when to keep it neutral to communicate facts. This variation isn't accidental, it's completely intentional. When you maintain the same tone throughout an entire conversation, the brain of whoever is listening to you literally disconnects. It's a survival mechanism. Our brain is designed to pay attention to changes, not to monotony. That's why you can be talking about something super important, but if you do it with the same boring tone, nobody's going to remember you. Think about the most successful TV presenters. They all have something in common. Their voice goes up and down as if they were telling the most fascinating story in the world. It's not because they're naturally dramatic, it's because they understand that tonal variation is what keeps attention. When they want us to pay attention to something important, they lower their voice. When they want to generate emotion, they raise it. When they want to create suspense, they make strategic pauses. Here's the exercise that will change your life. Record yourself telling a story for 2 minutes. It can be any story, something that happened to you yesterday. Listen to it and count how many times you change your tone of voice. If it's less than 10 changes, your voice is boring. Now tell the same story again, but this time dramatically exaggerate every emotion. If you talk about something sad, lower your voice a lot. If you talk about something exciting, raise it. If there's suspense, make long pauses. Practice until it sounds natural. Do you know what the difference is between someone who tells jokes that nobody laughs at and someone who can make everyone laugh with the simplest story? It's not the words, it's the delivery. And delivery depends completely on how you use your voice to create mental images in the mind of whoever is listening to you. And that brings us to the fourth discovery that changed everything for Neil Strauss. The fourth secret that revolutionized Strauss's understanding of magnetic communication was discovering that the most seductive people don't just speak. They create mental movies. Your voice has the power to transport someone anywhere, make them feel any emotion, and live any experience, but only if you know how to activate their imagination through your vocal delivery. Strauss observed that masters of seduction never said, "I went to the restaurant." They said, "Picture this. I walk into this little hidden Italian restaurant with those dim lights that barely illuminate the tables and the aroma of garlic and basil that embraces you from the moment you cross the door." The difference isn't in the words, it's in how the voice accompanies those words to create a complete sensory experience. When you speak with the intention of creating mental images, your voice automatically becomes more expressive. You lower your tone when describing something mysterious, raise it when there's emotion, pause when you want them to imagine something specific. This isn't a trick, it's pure neuroscience. When you describe something vividly while your voice accompanies the narrative, the brain of whoever is listening to you activates the same areas that would activate if they were actually living that experience. That's why some people can tell you about their weekend and you get bored to the point of falling asleep, while others can talk to you about the same thing and you feel like you were there with them. The difference is that some just report facts, while others create experiences through their voice. Imagine you're talking to someone you're attracted to. If you tell them, "I like the beach," their brain files that information as boring data. But if you tell them, "There's something magical about feeling the warm sand between your toes while listening to the waves crashing against the rocks," while your voice accompanies every sensation you describe, their brain literally experiences those sensations. It becomes a shared experience, not exchanged information. The exercise that will transform your communication ability is this. For the next 7 days, every time you tell someone about something you did, don't report facts, create experiences. Instead of saying, "I ate pizza," say, "There was this pizza with the cheese slowly melting, and when I take the first bite, the contrast between the crispy crust and the soft interior was perfect." Practice describing textures, sounds, aromas. Your voice will naturally adapt to accompany these descriptions. But the most powerful secret of all doesn't have to do with what you say or how you say it. It has to do with something most people never consider: the power of strategic silence. Neil Strauss discovered that the spaces between words are as important as the words themselves, and mastering it is what separates amateurs from true masters of vocal seduction. Have you ever noticed how the most charismatic people seem to have all the time in the world when they speak? They're not in a hurry, they don't fill every second with words, and for some reason that makes them even more interesting. The fifth and most devastating secret that Neil Strauss discovered is that silence is the most powerful weapon in your vocal arsenal. Most people are terrified of silence. When there's a pause in conversation, they immediately fill it with unnecessary words, with or simply repeating what they already said. But Strauss discovered that great seducers used silence as a magnet. They knew exactly when to be quiet, so the other person would feel the irresistible need to fill that void. Strategic silence works for a deep psychological reason. When you create a pause after saying something important, you force the other person to process what you just said. Their brain can't help it. During those seconds of silence, your message is engraved more deeply in their memory. Additionally, silence creates tension, and tension generates attraction. Think about the most exciting movies you've seen. The most intense moments aren't filled with constant dialogue. The moments you remember most are those where silence becomes almost tangible. That same technique works in real life. When you learn to be comfortable with silence, you project a confidence that is magnetic. Here's the most powerful exercise of all. The next time someone asks you an important question, don't respond immediately. Look them directly in the eyes, take a deep breath, count to 3 in your mind, and then respond slowly. You'll see how that simple pause makes your answer have 10 times more impact. The person will feel that what you're going to say is so important that you need to think about it carefully. But there's more. When you finish saying something significant, don't add unnecessary words. Let your message float in the air. Most people ruin powerful statements by adding, "you know," or "that's what I think" at the end. Learn to end your sentences with a period, not with implicit question marks. Silence also gives you power in negotiations. When someone makes you an offer, don't respond immediately. The silence will make them feel uncomfortable, and many times they'll improve their offer without you having to say a single word. It's basic psychology. Whoever speaks first loses. Repeat this phrase until it becomes part of you. My silence has more power than 1,000 empty words. Because it's true. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the person who knows when to be quiet is the one who really controls the conversation. If you've made it this far, there's something you already know deeply. Your voice is much more than sound. It's your hidden superpower. Every word you utter has the potential to change how people perceive you, how they feel with you, and how willing they are to follow you, respect you, or fall in love with you. The 5 secrets you just discovered aren't just techniques. They're the difference between living asking for attention and having attention automatically. When you speak from your chest with natural depth, people feel your authority before you say the first word. When you control your rhythm and use strategic pauses, every sentence becomes an event that nobody wants to miss. When you vary your tone like a master conductor, you transform boring conversations into memorable experiences. When you create mental movies with your voice, you don't just communicate information, you create deep emotional connections. And when you master the art of silence, you become someone whose words have real weight. Neil Strauss spent years studying what makes certain people irresistible when they speak, and discovered it's not about having a perfect voice from birth. It's about understanding that your voice is an instrument you can tune, control, and use intentionally to get the results you want in life. But here's the truth that will change everything. These secrets only work if you practice them. It's not enough to understand them intellectually. You have to train your voice like you would train any other skill you want to master. The difference is that once you master your voice, it will affect every area of your life. From getting the job you want to attracting the person you desire, from leading teams to influencing important decisions. Have you noticed that the most successful people in the world, from political leaders to great entrepreneurs, all have something in common? They know how to use their voice as a weapon of mass persuasion. It's not a coincidence. It's a skill they developed consciously because they understood that in a world full of noise, whoever knows how to communicate with real power is the one who wins. Your current voice is the result of years of unconscious habits, but your future voice can be the result of conscious decisions you make starting today. Every time you speak slowly instead of fast, every time you use a pause instead of filling silence with empty words, every time you speak from your chest instead of your throat, you're building a new version of yourself. The person you were before watching this video had a voice. The person you're going to become has a magnetic voice, and that transformation starts right now with the next word you speak. I want you to do something that will seal this change in your subconscious. Write in the comments exactly this. I choose to use my voice as my superpower. My communication will be magnetic, powerful, and irresistible. It's not just a comment, it's a commitment to yourself. It's the declaration that you're no longer going to allow your voice to be just background noise in other people's lives. When you write those words and publish them, something will change in your mind. Your brain will understand that you've made a serious decision about who you want to be when you speak. And every time you practice these secrets, you'll remember the moment you decided to transform your communication forever. If this video has opened your eyes to the hidden power of your voice, there's much more you need to know. Subscribe right now and turn on all notifications, because in the upcoming videos, we're going to dive deep into the most advanced secrets of magnetic communication. We're going to talk about how to read people through their voice, how to use your communication to generate instant attraction, and how to develop that presence that makes everyone go quiet when you speak. Share this video with someone who needs to discover the power of their voice, because when more people understand these principles, communication in general gets better. And remember, your voice is your calling card to the world. Starting today, make sure it's a card that nobody can ignore. The next time you open your mouth to speak, remember that you have in your vocal cords the power to hypnotize, seduce, and persuade. Use it wisely, use it intentionally, and watch how the world starts responding to the new magnetic version of who you really are.